What's going on there, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was sitting back and trying to think of a fun topic to go ahead and discuss, something that can spark an interesting conversation down in the comment section and get people thinking a little bit. And I was scrolling through Reddit, and I came across a post of, one of those posts where it's like, what type of saying or type of idea would get you in this type of situation, someone being prosecuted or some crap, you know what I'm saying? A hot take. And I saw one of them down below, and it wasn't really that popular, but it really got me thinking, and I wanted to go ahead and create a video about this. But unlimited sprinting being the cause of Call of Duty's, overall decline. Now, I will not say that infinite sprint was the overall cause of everything going to, hell. I don't really think so. But I think there's a good point to be made here, because you will see a lot of complaints in the overall community being that, skill-based matchmaking is making the game absurdly sweaty. And their definition of sweaty is people b-hopping, hauling ass around the map, slide canceling all the time. That's the overall definition, I think, nowadays of a typical sweaty player. Now, I have different terms for sweaty players, but when you go out and you look over social media, I think that's the broad term of it. So anybody that is going to, take advantage of a lot of the movement exploits, even though they're not really exploits anymore. They're pretty much official in this game, but back in the day, Modern Warfare 2019, a lot of these things were basically exploits. But people who take advantage of that stuff are typically sweats in their mind, and they, kind of link it to skill-based matchmaking. But I'm telling you, skill-based matchmaking is not the reason for all of this movement. It really comes down to the player base in Call of Duty. Even when it comes over to XDefiant advertises no skill-based matchmaking. They had multiple betas with no skill-based matchmaking. Open betas that lasted for ages, so I don't want to hear, only the most hardcore of hardcore players went ahead and played. No, they had millions of people hop into these betas. It was an extremely popular beta. Everybody wanted to break from COD, and everybody saw that game as a solution, and everybody hopped in, and guess what? It was the same exact players. The game at its foundation has a very cracked movement system, and guess what? You go into the experience, and even though there's no skill-based matchmaking, the typical player nowadays, they take advantage of anything they can get their hands on, and if movement is involved, then they will take advantage of that. Now, let's move back over to Call of Duty. Call of Duty back in the day, Call of Duty 4 through Black Ops 2, everybody always claims they were the fastest games in the world, but realistically, they weren't. I say this all the time, and people try to argue with me about it, but it's true. Call of Duty is simply a position-based shooter. Positioning yourself is so key in Call of Duty games back in its prime. And of course, they were slowly moving away from that. Black Ops 2 being the peak of, that OG cycle of games. Black Ops 2 is probably the most fast-paced of all the titles. But if you think of Call of Duty 4 through Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 3 was the fastest. Modern Warfare 2... it was so, again, I don't know where people get all these magical ideas. Yeah, you can run marathon and lightweight, but it was a specific playstyle you had to run. You had to pick perks and, give up certain things like stopping power and other useful perks in order to have that playstyle. Nowadays, it's literally given to you right out the gate. You automatically have that playstyle, and then you can put perks together to work even more crazier on top of that playstyle. Back in the day, you didn't have that. You see, you did not have unlimited sprinting, which required people to take their time and actually hold up certain positions and try to understand map logic, spawns, what lanes to hold, simply what you should be doing in current day COD. But a lot of people don't really do that. One of the funniest things for me personally is when a lot of people have trouble playing the game. And they'll come to me and ask me, check out some of their clips. And I'll just simply see that they are just abusing movement way too frequently. And I tell you guys this all the time. A lot of these clips you see on the internet, you have to understand, we cherry pick for content, okay? Nobody's going to show you their worst of worst clips. Nobody's going to show you the hours worth of time that they had to go through in order to get something extremely fancy, extremely good looking. You have to understand, if you're versing equal competition, you have to take your time sometimes and stop sprinting around corners and slide canceling around every corner you can find and b-hopping 50,000 times. Sometimes it's worth using those techniques strategically, right? But once they implement any type of fast-paced movement, the community, there's no in-between. It's either they go all out with movement or they don't use movement at all. And you have to find that middle point. And a lot of the times I tell these people that I watch their gameplay and they're just going crazy with movement, I'm like, slow down a bit. If you're having trouble, slow down a bit. Again, Call of Duty is a position-based shooter. That is at its core. No matter how much movement they add to the game, that is at its core. Take advantage of some pretty good hotspots. Take advantage of learning spawn so you can spawn trap. Take advantage of multiple different ways of playing, and your gameplay will improve. And, lo and behold, they come back and they say their gameplay has improved. this movement system, I personally believe, is why people just don't really enjoy COD that much anymore. And I'll be honest, I'm not a hater. I don't want you guys to come at me and say, oh, this man is just hating on movement in COD nowadays. That's not the case whatsoever. I enjoy the current movement. I think Modern Warfare 3 is, this game that you see right here, is the best game that we've had when it comes to movement for, the new community of Call of Duty. Finding a middle ground between people who don't care for movement and finding a middle ground between people who want that movement. They found a nice in-between spot, and I like it. But at the end of the day, I can confirm that this is still nowhere close to being what OG COD was all about. And having movement this cracked, it's hard for a lot of the community. Because again, you have individuals who enjoy that OG style of COD, who can't really adapt to the new style of COD. And then you have a lot of people who see the new style of COD that want to force themselves to adapt and think that this nonstop movement is the way to go, when in reality, you have to take advantage of these techniques. There's no in-between. You get what I'm saying here? And I feel like this new movement style has changed what COD is all about, the mentality. People just want to push. They want to run and gun. They want to blindlessly get into, engagements, which, again, yeah, go for it if you really want to. But when it backfires and craps on your face, don't start complaining about it, because that's how it's always been since the beginning of time. You could push a spawn for ages back in Modern Warfare 2, and if you got too deep, yeah, you're going to have a bunch of people spawning around you and, crapping on you. And, it just is what it is. Sometimes it benefits you to hold a spot a little bit and then move forward. But that's not the Call of Duty mentality. Ever since the jetpack era of COD, where they added in these fast-paced mechanics and, these ways of maneuvering and being able to outplay enemies who don't want to take advantage of that skill gap, the mindset of Call of Duty has changed. Position-based shooting and, that it's still run and gun. I don't want people to mistake position-based shooting with not requiring run and gunning, because that's not the case. You need to be able to master both in order to be successful at Call of Duty. You need to know when to move and when not to move. That's the key to success, okay? It's not like you're going to be sitting in a spot for 20 years waiting for... No, that's not the case. Like I said, it's all thoughtful. It's all, when should I move and when should I wait a second? You don't have to wait 10,000 minutes. Just a few seconds to hold down a spot and see if you have a good spawn trap, a good position. You can mow down enemies. You could be use of your team. But as I was saying, with the jetpack games, they changed the mentality of Call of Duty, Because even after Black Ops 2, it was Ghost, right? We still had a game that kind of held onto its core, even though it wasn't everybody's favorite game. It was still there. But I'm telling you, once Advanced Warfare dropped, and again, Black Ops 3, Infinite Warfare, all these games started releasing with advanced movement, non-stop sprinting, so on and so forth. I am telling you, it changed the mentality of Call of Duty players. It completely did. And we have a new era of Call of Duty, and I think people just simply don't enjoy that. Not talking about me personally. Again, I like the movement, but that's not what Call of Duty always was back in the day. And I feel like Infinite Sprint has changed the core of what Call of Duty is all about. And it shows heavily in the games where they tried to implement that OG vibe. World War II, it might not have been the best Call of Duty game, but they really tried to implement that OG classic feel of COD, position-based shooter, and guess what? The whole community complained like no tomorrow until they implemented it back in. And now with Unlimited Sprint, you can literally haul it. It's not as position-based as it was before. You can go crazy. It's a completely different game. And it's kind of crazy to think about how different a Call of Duty game plays without or with Infinite Sprint. It really is. You would think it's such a minor change, but it literally changes everything about the title that you're playing. Of course, you can still have perks to give you Unlimited Sprint, but it's a give or take type deal. It's not automatically given to you right away. So yeah, it's definitely a massive gameplay changer. And World War II is a prime example of the community just not wanting that back. They don't care for it anymore. But then again, it's almost the same community who's complaining that these games are getting too sweaty. They're getting too hardcore. People are playing too aggressively. People are slide canceling too much. People are, jump shotting too much. It's the same crowd. People don't want it, but at the same time, they hate the direction Call of Duty is going. You see what I'm saying here? Same thing with Modern Warfare 2 2022. They removed the slide canceling in that game. And again, I know people hate it for other reasons, but when it comes down to movement, I personally enjoyed it. I thought that was a great, in-between of classic movement and the new generation of movement. You had everything like dolphin diving. You could still slide. You could tack sprint, but it just didn't allow you to slide cancel. And even in that game, people were complaining that it was too slow because you couldn't slide cancel. Yet again, that same crowd that hates how slow the movement gets in these type of shooters when they try to hone in that OG vibe are the same crowd who hate how people play. They hate how people slide cancel everywhere. They hate how people jump shot everywhere. They hate the super aggressiveness that Call of Duty is going. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that I personally believe that unlimited sprinting is a key component to, the problems that we have here for a lot of the community. For me personally, again, I deal with it and I enjoy it. But when I see people complaining about a lot of this stuff, I truthfully think that it's just the pacing of Call of Duty nowadays. People despise how players are playing the game. They despise how fast it is. They despise how cracked out it is. They despise the current player base. But the current player base just takes advantage of the tools that are given to them. They did the same thing back in the OG days, but back in the OG days, you didn't have this unlimited cracked out movement. You could jump shot and you could drop shot. That's it. There wasn't many other things. And again, if you wanted a limited sprint, if you wanted faster movement, you had to sacrifice certain parts of your class and pick different perks. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, go down in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about unlimited sprint being in or not in Call of Duty. What do you prefer? Do you think it's better without unlimited sprint, or do you think Call of Duty is in a better spot right now with it involved? Personally, I enjoy it. I can't lie. I like having unlimited sprint and I enjoy the gameplay. But at the end of the day, I see so many people complaining about the direction this game is taking with how sweaty it is and how these players are playing the game. But that would be long gone if they would remove it. But at the same time, if they remove it, those same players who are complaining about the sweatiness are going to say the game is too slow. It's a pick and choose type of situation, and it's definitely a hard one to go ahead and discuss. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. We do indeed post daily here at 8 in the morning Eastern time, and sometimes, we go ahead and put up a double upload. So, of course, to stay notified, hit that bell. And last but not least, if you guys are interested in any of my live streams and you want to chat it up with me, I do that over on Kick. Usually goes live around 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time, and I got a link to that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.